Welcome to The Resilient Responder, the podcast where we explore stories of strength, courage, and unwavering resilience in the face of life's challenges, as told by first responders. Join us now on a journey of inspiration and empowerment as we dive in with Dylan, Josh, and Patrick.
Episode of The Resilient Responder, hosted by Scars Incorporated and sponsored by First Responder Coaching. As you can tell, we are not in the barn. He's not happy about that.
Not happy at all.
He's not happy at all. He's very upset.
He had to drive.
I had to drive somewhere.
Poor guy.
We've listened to it since 5 o'clock this evening, that we're not at the barn. We are in Westover, West Virginia, just outside of Morgantown, at the VFW, thanks to Jason Morgan. You will remember Jason. He was on the
Episode 2.
Episode 2, I believe,
yes.
yeah, of the Resilient Responder. As he joined us and shared his story with us, and he was gracious enough to open up the doors of the VFW. We also have a little bit of a crowd here with us. We've got about 12, 13 people here. We've had some people kind of come and go throughout the evening. So thank you to everybody who joined in. Quick shout out, First Responder Coaching. Thank you guys yet again for allowing us to continue your mission as the Resilient Responder. Has there been any significant news?
Significant news out of the stable of FRC is, along with Battalion 1 Consulting and along with us, we were working on the project with Upshur County, which I believe is nearing a finish line, where in our local area here, Upshur County, Randolph County, Lewis County, they're getting some funding together to start a regional training. So we're looking at really from start to completion about 2 years worth of work by the time we go through, or by the time Battalion 1 goes through everybody's policies, procedures, comes up with regional protocol, training takes place. Talking with Chief Kimball there in Buchanan, they're talking about 100 coaches on the street in the time span of the next couple years. So we're in some negotiations to see if we can't get some of those spots opened up to some of our folks as well, to kind of make our footprint a little bigger. So it's not just in those 3 counties, but also being able to cover more of north central West Virginia and surrounding agencies as well. So as we continue.
And we're getting ready to start our class.
Yes.
Our class should be upcoming within
Thursdays,
yeah,
I believe.
Thursday,
On Thursdays.
If you'd ever responded to email.
Right. Well, Thursdays sometimes aren't the best.
Wait a second, was he looking at me or you?
I was looking at you responded.
I responded. I hit reply to all.
Did you?
I did.
I'm behind. It'll be all right.
Well, that will be I know that the 3 of us are really excited about diving in.
Oh, absolutely.
Getting that content under our belt and going out from there.
Yeah.
This is why Scars was invented, and being able to have the cohesiveness between us and First Responder Coaching to be not only to be able to do the podcast, but to also get the training and be able to be a coach out on the streets is definitely what we're here for.
Yeah, it's just another milestone, honestly. This has picked up steam in the past 6 months, and we're not letting off the gas, man. We're out here trying to get it done.
Patrick, we're buffering.
We're buffering?
Yeah.
We're
We're
gonna keep
buffering,
going,
and
'cause I can-
Want to
I'm
pick that
getting-
thing up off the floor? And
I'm getting
see it?
messages that we're buffering.
Well, that stinks. Tell YouTube. Facebook does not play well with us sometimes, and I don't know why.
I just thought maybe
We'll try it there.
Okay.
If nothing else, what we'll do is with the stream, there are times to where we record the local file directly to the iPad, and we can take down the original post and post the real thing. So if it's buffering, try YouTube. If it's still not working, I apologize. The video will be up within 2 hours after the show. Hopefully with YouTube, or with Facebook being our largest platform that we have most of our followers on.
Yeah.
Hopefully it will resolve itself.
Did something happen to your vision since the last show? We're in a brighter environment. You got those grandpa glasses.
No,
Well,
they're not. No, he
it's-
looks smarter.
It's
He's intelligent.
It's reading glasses. I'm intelligent.
Yeah. Well, not
we gotta
now.
read.
You are. You weren't a second ago, but now you are. Now you're not.
Oh.
Wow. Okay. Anywho.
So one of the things that we're I don't want to be intelligent. One of the things
That was easy enough.
One of the things that we posted throughout the week was a snapshot of a text message. It circulated around on some of the social media platforms, and it talked about. It was a conversation between. I don't obviously know who it was. It was talking about basically, hey, can I vent to you? Can I talk to you?
Do you have that where you can throw it up?
I couldn't get the picture to upload to my iPad. I'll try to get it here in just a second. But
Now, did that come from somewhere else, or
I just found it.
you just found it? Okay.
It was circulating through.
So
social
we did
media.
not stage that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it says
Right.
it says, hey, you okay? No. Can I rant? Tell me I'm listening. And how simple? I mean, it's so simple, but
Can I rant?
Yeah.
That's a.
and I think it speaks volumes of what we have and what we're about.
Sure.
I think a lot of it though is not only the ranting part, but it's the being able to have the conversation. Like, what's the starter for the conversation? The three of us obviously have a very good friendship forged to where we can just pick up the phone and either call or text, and even with our group chat, we do a check-in every so often just to make sure that everybody's doing okay. But at what point in time does it take for you to be able to pull that trigger, for you to be able to muster up the strength to be able to admit that you're not okay and reach out for it? And that is one of the most concerning things when it comes down to it, because not everybody's going to do that. Not everybody's going to pick up the phone and text somebody or reach out to somebody, or like when Matt joined us and we talked about, he talked about he can always, he can tell if there's somebody on his fire station that's off. We don't always have that ability.
No, we don't, and EMS is the same way. And we got into a discussion earlier amongst a few of the folks that are here about, how do you recognize those signs? If they're not willing to say, "Can I rant?" or "Is there a problem?" You may be sitting next to somebody in an ambulance, in a fire apparatus, whatever, and this person may be driving for you, and they're having the worst day of their life, and they're holding it all in. You missed a sign or didn't recognize an offhanded comment, or so on and so forth. But that person has your life in their hand as well.
One of the things that I think the most about is it's easy for me in the calm, cool, collective mindset to be able to say, hey, if I have a problem, I'm going to reach out to you and say, hey, brother, we need to talk. Or, hey, Patrick, you around? I need to vent. But where's our mindset at when we're in the trenches?
Exactly.
Where
Right.
are we then? Is it as second nature as what we want it to be? Is it to a point of picking that phone up? And I think that's where we run into the issues and run into the problems of being able to, that oh shit moment, to be able to say, I'm going to say it. Who's my man? And,
No, let's say
and
There's
that.
35 cents we
Yeah,
have to pay.
I'm not gonna pay the.
it's worth
gonna
it.
text
me.
It's
He
worth
probably
it.
will.
Oh, he's on there. I seen him, and I want people to do the shout out and tell us where you're from and what you're doing. I especially if you're new, I think it's awesome to be able to see how many people that we're reaching out to. But more importantly, how do you get second nature? How do you, while you're in the trenches, where your mind is, how do you plant that seed to be able to pull yourself out of it?
But there's a difference too, and I want to go back to where we're talking about, and I hate to formulate it like this, but let's talk about paid departments and career agencies versus volunteers. You may have a volunteer firefighter who is in the trenches that nobody knows about. The alarm goes off. He or she's the first one in the station, just behind the driver's seat, and by going away that call, it clicks in their mind that those demons take over, and you've got 4 or 5 other guys, girls on the truck with you. What then?
Yeah.
Because those folks don't readily have somebody to reach out to. They may not.
Yeah.
the service has gotten very separated to where there's not the togetherness in the stations as often as there used to be, and there's not the recognition of each other's personal problems or career problems or relationship problems, so on and so forth. So, bell goes off, everybody shows up to the station, and you could be walking into catastrophe without even knowing it before you ever get to the incident scene.
But it's not only, I mean, take law enforcement, for example, and Jason, I'm going to put you on the spot. How often, I mean, unless you're either on FTO or if you are an FTO, you're in a police car by yourself.
Yes.
Is that a consistent thing? I mean, I've seen before to where deputies or troopers or whatever, I see where there might be two in a vehicle, but that's not a common thing.
No.
So-
That I know of, not in Montague County, it's absolutely not. I don't know how about around the state, other places in the state, but not in Montague County, it's not.
So take that. I mean, if you're having a battle of an internal thought demon, whatever we want to call it, and imagine being in a vehicle by yourself,
Right?
and having to and you're patrolling the county. I mean, that's what you're supposed to be doing, and all you're doing is running all this through your head constantly, over and over again. And if you do reach out to somebody to where you can have the conversation, start the conversation, then that's great. But what if you don't?
Right. Yeah, and there's some pretty remote parts of every county across this state and many others that, you're lucky to have radio or cell service in some places. If your mind goes dark in one of those areas, who knows what could happen? And that's, again, that's the bridge that we're trying to form here across that valley of.
Even with the point, and I know I interrupted you, but even at
That's
the
pretty
point of,
normal.
I know. Let me get it out, or I'm going to forget.
Okay.
That's why we have paper. You're the only one that
know.
never brings a notebook.
Because it's all right here.
Oh God.
If we're rolling in, I have a trigger point. I know that we've talked about trigger points in so many episodes, but if I have a moment to where you and I've been doing this our whole lives together,
Yeah.
and if something hits me at that right time or wrong time, and I'm like, man, I don't even feel comfortable reaching out to you because I know you're going to laugh at me because it's goofy in my mind. It's like I can't even
Sure.
I can't even roll with it. I'm almost embarrassed to say it.
That was just said on YouTube. Most are embarrassed or feel like a burden, and I think that is a lot of the stigma.
I think that's a lot of it. I do. I really do. Because there's just little calls where you're just, you see something in traumatic event and you're like, what the hell did I just see? And then you reach out to talk to someone, especially, because your EMS world's way different than my EMS. Because I just drove people places. I didn't even care to get
Didn't even
out.
do that well, but that's,
Yeah, I know, right? But I got into it for the fire side,
But the fireside's the same way. I can
it
remember
is,
going
but it's,
into.
It is,
into-
but it's different with
But
the traumatic part of it.
There is, but it's still the same. I mean, I can go into a house now. If we packed up together, went into a burning building right
We
now.
could take that oxygen down. We could take that bottle
Well,
down
that's
quick.
beside. Yeah. We're a little, we have what doctors call a little bit of a weight problem, but
30 at a bottle in 10
yeah.
minutes.
But there's still things in that that we run across a specific type of baby doll or a toy.
That's right.
Or something, and it triggers something that maybe when I come out, I'm a different person than what I am when I went in there.
Yeah.
And that's years of trauma.
Yeah.
That's years of scooping the bodies off the floor, and that's where we are.
Yeah.
But if you look at it, how do you bridge that gap? And I think Ben and Matt and Marshana all said it very well, is that we are the answer for everybody. When somebody calls 911, police, fire, EMS, whatever it may be, we're the answer. We're the ones that show up, we're the ones that fix the problems, and we're the ones that deals with it. But where's our 911? And I think that all three of those comments basically say the exact same thing because we feel as if we're going to burden somebody. I know if I reach out to you guys that we can have the chat. We've had the chats before, off camera of today's not a good day or something along those lines. But how do we bridge that gap? Where does the gap bridge to where we can say, if you're you're never a damn burden. And I don't know where we got that in our heads as to where we thought it was, we even mustered that thought.
Well, we got
think
it.
it's self-inflicted. I think it's
Yeah.
it's something that just in our own minds that we don't want to be that burden. And Louis made
Yeah,
a
he
comment.
did. I just saw that.
Yeah, did you see it?
Yeah.
Our wives, significant others, and families take the brunt of it and may not know how to deal with it. That's 110% correct. But we were talking to Porter earlier, and we were talking about that significant other, and if they were also, you're a medic.
Mm-hmm.
Kim is a RN
And a medic.
and a medic. Okay, so you're both first responders, and how do you bring that home if you know that Kim's having a crappy day? Do you want to go and you had a crappy day and you want to share your crap on her?
She works at Ruby. Every day's crappy.
So that's why you call me.
Right, yeah, that's why.
Oh, damn.
Our views are not our views. Do not directly reflect. Thanks for joining us, everybody. It was a great episode.
Right.
We will never be doing it again.
Episode 4 is our last. WVU just sued us.
But it's not because of that. But okay, so expand on that. It is actually a good one. It's not because of the hospital. It's because of the same crap that we deal with day in, day out.
It's people now.
It's the compassion fatigue.
Yes.
It's exactly what
Well,
it is.
no,
you don't have the ability to care for people. like
There's
you
more
used
than
to.
that, though. There's more than that.
It's
There's
the-
not only
it's-
compassion fatigue, but there's also patient fatigue. And patient fatigue or customer fatigue, whatever you want to call it, is the other point of that. Because a lot of our burnout in EMS, law enforcement, nursing, all of it is that same person that calls over and over and over,
Can you pull
or
up-
that
can you pull up Taylor's
patient
post?
that complains,
Taylor's, yeah.
don't put my IV there, nobody can stick me there, or the one that's called for the 4th time because they want to go get detoxed and they beat you back to the liquor store after your shift. Those are the ones. That's the mental fatigue that your patients and your customer service part bring out of you.
So I just had him to bring up Taylor's post.
I'm not there
And
yet.
if you'll remember, whenever we initially shared Taylor's story and we talked about it, it goes into saying, and I know this is EMS, but it will go for EMS, fire, law enforcement, nursing, 911. It's the same repetitive calls. And it's not EMS 20 years ago, whenever you and I started in this. It wasn't, it's not the, it's the compassion fatigue, it's the patient fatigue, you're right, but it's when you get toned for the unresponsive patient, possible overdose, and you're going through in your mind and you're starting naming people who it might be.
The second paragraph of Taylor's post is, "This job has changed me. I'm no longer the compassionate, caring, happy person I was when I started, not without being medicated anyway."
Well, that's the problem is the fact that, and then we just buried even more.
Yeah.
Because we are medicated, and God forbid we reach out then, because then we can't talk about it. Because we live in that stigma
Right.
of having the damn.
But one point of it is, though, I was at the hospital the other night chatting, and to know that the same patient that I was picking up when I first started in 2001 in a particular county was still going to the same hospital for the same problem on the same days. That's 20 some years worth of the same patient coming in with the same complaint day after day after day. You can't tell me that on a provider side that isn't part of mental fatigue.
No, it absolutely is. And that's not the argument, but it's the fact of, we see it because we deal with it, and you can laugh about the medical command operators. We can call in and give a report, and they'll tell us our patient's name sometimes.
Well, sure.
age, gender.
Right, it's the fact of, that is the stigma, that is how that's what we've done to live with this, but yet we still bury it way down deep inside. And if you're not okay with admitting it's okay, you're not going to reach out.
Mm-hmm.
If you refuse to, if anybody thinks that you're a burden, number one, stop. That's the first thing you should automatically
Right.
throw up a big red stop sign. Because if you start having thoughts about self-harm, self-mutilation, anything, or if you just go into a deep, dark depressive hole, then there is obviously there was a change in attitude, there was a change in something. You need to reach out to somebody. And it's not that you're a burden, because there are 3 people in a room full of people in front of us, and everybody wave hi. I just put you on camera. Wave hi, everybody. But that is how but that is what you do, is you reach out to these people. It's the people who care. The 3 of us up here, we've given you guys telephone numbers, email addresses. We want you to reach out to us.
So,
Because we don't want you to ever think that you're a burden.
so ask them, what's compassion fatigue? What does that mean to somebody out there?
Somebody give me a definition of compassion fatigue.
That was a
I mean,
question.
kind of like what you all were saying about the same patient, because where you were talking, I actually sent a message out because 4 of us in this room dealt with the same person that would call 2, 3, 4 times a day, and it was always when you were busy. It was always for the same call, and this person ran you to death. And at first, when you first started, just like, oh, it's a chest pain call, and then you realize that it's an everyday thing, and you're just like, okay, I just did CPR on a 20-year-old person because they were in a car wreck, and now you're calling for this stupid shit.
So at what point in time, though, do the citizens, the people that we care for, the people that we are there to protect for law enforcement, fire, EMS, whatever it may be, the ones that we're there to provide a service for, they don't know. They know Hollywood EMS. They know what it's like on First Watch or whatever. Yeah, all these episodes, like all these real life, these, not I won't say real life, but these realistic, whatever the hell they're called. I mean, that's what they see.
TV.
Reality TV. Yeah, that's what they see.
That's
They
a
s-
whole issue in itself.
But
Yeah.
but
And I
it-
mean,
but from the standpoint of taking it take it one more.
No,
take it
let her
one
finish
step
her
further.
thought. I want to hear where she's
you
going.
make me nervous.
Huh? I won't look at you.
Me too.
I won't look at you.
So, part of me obviously understands the compassion fatigue, but then the other part of me is thinking about, our patients, the people we protect, is they don't know. They aren't experiencing what we're experiencing, and I know we're always told, like, this is their emergency, but for some of them it really is. So it's like, part of me, feels like it's a multifaceted issue. Is the public doesn't know better. The public doesn't know the strain that they're causing on hospital systems, EMS systems, 911 systems, and it all cascades down.
Do they care?
I think a lot of them do, probably.
It's
A lot of them don't.
Well, when-
lack of education.
Yeah, it's a lack of education.
So ignorance is a lack of knowledge. It's very simple.
I hate the stigma of, if I call an ambulance, I'll go immediately to the ER. Every time we have to explain that's
Well,
not
if
the
you have
case.
50 people that think that, it's never true.
Yeah, and we have to explain to them, if you're vitally stable.
You're
and
going to the waiting
You're
room.
going in for a headache, you're going in the waiting room.
But the thing is there are counties in West Virginia, because I've worked at several different hospitals. And I worked at one hospital that has since went out of business and has reopened as another one. And when I worked in an emergency department, every patient that came by ambulance automatically went to a room. That's how their nursing staff was taught. So that was portrayed to the patients as, I found an ambulance, I can get to a room. So that's where a lot of the education thing, and you have to educate these people and say, no, just because you called 911, it's not a true emergency if it's been going on for 8 months, 2 years, your whole lifetime. So it's all about educating the patients on.
911 has become a replacement for primary care.
But also.
And for urgent care.
So you call 911 and you think you're going to get in by or you're run by ambulance, and I'm sitting there trying to explain to you that's not how it works. Well, now you think that I'm lazy, I just don't want you to the hospital.
No, you can tell that to them on the way to the hospital and say, I'm gonna take you, but this is our protocols, and this is what we're gonna do, and we're gonna take you to the triage area. And then that triage nurse, whoever's there, will make the decision. And just because you called 911 does not mean you automatically get a bed. And that was like whenever patients would come in and say, well, I called my doctor and they told me to come to the emergency room. I understand you called your physician, but your physician did not contact us and tell us that you were coming. So we're going to triage you according to our protocols, and then we will handle it as we see fit.
And that's the thing, like, their primary care doctor is required to tell them to call
Right,
911.
but that's all you can say is, we will give you a ride, and it's up to the hospital staff of which way you're gonna go. But this is our protocol, we will take you out to the desk, and you're gonna answer all the questions out there.
So,
But, I mean, there were hospitals in this state that did have that mentality of just because somebody called 911, they were automatically getting into a bed. So that is a lack of education.
but it also goes, you take that one step further to say, not only did they do that, but they did it for the reason because the administrators were jumping up and down because they're holding a wall.
Well, there's
That's the
that.
other thing.
There's that, and how many of these agencies? And I'm sorry, this is a managerial and an administrative problem. Of you've picked up the same patient for the same complaint 3 or 4 times in a row, and how many of us out there are being told, oh, well, you go, if you put them in your ambulance, you go put an IV in so we can charge ALS. Well, then that screws up the whole system, because then really you can't take them to triage if you've put an IV in and you've done all this stuff.
But not
And if
anymore.
they leave, then we have to call police and
So,
sign them up.
So
So
do we play into their mind game as well of, ooh, I get this attention, and some of it is attention seeking behavior of, I'm gonna call an ambulance, they're gonna rush here and they're gonna put an IV in me and give me some medication and
I think it's half and half. I think a good percentage of population is genuinely uneducated. And I think another half of the population is using it maliciously. So healthcare system as a whole, that could be a multi-hour conversation, but it all trickles down to people in the field. And
Does
people in
it-
the ERs and people in the hospital.
But also look at it from the same sense of, in the dispatch world, there are certain call types that trigger certain responses.
yeah.
So, it could be the same, it could be
Right.
the 5th chest pains of the day for the same patient, and you're getting a fire response. It could be
Yeah,
the
you're getting
5th drug
full-blown
overdose, and it's a
cavalry.
full-blown cavalry because
Like,
you have law enforcement.
or you'll get sued, or
Right.
you'll get,
Right.
And then there was a comment, our hospital is so overwhelmed, we have had to take our IFT patients to the waiting room. So if you think about it, where this person's from is Myrtle Beach area, and they have a bunch of freestanding hospitals, and they have one big hospital, if I understand it correctly. But they're taking patients from a freestanding hospital to the big hospital, to the mothership.
And going to the waiting room.
And they're putting their IFT, the
Wow.
patients who are being transferred to be admitted, they're going to the waiting room.
That seems like a violation of some sort, but that's
But-
above my pay grade.
But then you take all of this and you put it into a 12 or an 8, 10, 12, or 24-hour day,
Right.
and then you clock out, and I've said it, I know I've said it multiple times, I've said it to staff members, everything else, we expect you to leave your job at work the minute you clock out.
Yeah.
With no decompression time.
Good luck with
anything.
that.
Yeah, how the hell are you gonna do that?
And
Good
I
luck
think
with
that
that.
was kind of going back to what initiated the conversation is, especially with multiple first responders in the house. You don't want to trouble others with your problems, whether they're in your house or buddies, because people have lives and they have their own issues, and you don't want to be that burden. And like what Patrick said earlier, we need to get over that. Be a burden. I want somebody to be a burden.
You're not being a burden.
Yeah, because
That's the thing, like-
but it's self-imposed.
Right. Yeah, if you feel like you are, then be one. Like,
Yeah, absolutely. Be one. I don't care. I accept all burdens. But at the same time, I think there's just there's something more to what we do and how we do it, especially as first responders. How do we decompress? Because I can go home and I can decompress to Natalie, and she's not a first responder, and she's hearing something for the first time. She's not sitting there going, yeah. She's not. I guess what I'm trying to say. Do you guys fall into a category? And this is more for Dylan, because I don't think your wife's not.
No, my wife was a first responder
Okay.
for years.
Do they try to one up you? Does your spouse try to one up
absolutely
you
not.
and say, I ran a call like this and it went this way?
I don't think it's a one up. I think it's a compare. To me, it's a comparison to say, I know how you feel, and the reason I do is because I did a similar situation, and then here was my situation. I don't think that the
So I
spouse is
take
ever
that in my
trying to-
mind as a one up.
Yeah, well, and I get that. I can see where you're
I can't help
Okay.
it.
But like Candace and I can have a conversation and about work, and we can share things. Candace is very much so she's like, God bless her, she's a listener, and she'll let me just vent and vent and vent and vent, and then at the end of it she'll be like, so we're good, thumbs up, and I'm like, God, I love you, because anybody else would be like, all right, this is you complained about this stop.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of it is the true venting. I'm not looking for an answer.
Exactly.
And I think that's where a lot of the stigma for the people who do listen is you just need to listen. You're not there to provide an answer. You're not going to fix the problem.
That's right.
You're going to hear the problem, and now you could probably you could be like, well, okay, so I had a similar situation. This is how I dealt with it. It may or may not work for you.
Mm-hmm.
And you can try, you could try that route, but that person just wants to vent.
That's
and
right.
And if they want to yell, kick, scream, whatever, let them do it.
Mm-hmm.
And then, and be a Candace and be like, all right, so we good? Because if not, yell, kick, scream some more, and then let's get to a point to where we can move forward.
That's right. Yep.
See, even though we do the podcast and we're doing the coaching and all that, I'm still a barrier. I will tell you that straight out. She'll tell you that straight out. I'm a barrier. It takes me a long time to process certain events and certain calls before I can A, relive them, or B, talk about them.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, it's a very different kind of beast to deal with. I am not good at. I'm good at listening to others. I am not worth a damn when it comes to talking about my own. I will play it off as long as I can until it destroys me.
Yeah.
But even the conversations that you and I have shared together, calls that we have ran together, and even after the podcast when we sit around and just BS amongst the three of us, you can. There's a certain amount of processing time for everybody,
Sure.
no matter the situation. And I think that, some of us can process things quicker than others because we just want to go direct. We want to find the end result. That's all we want to do. We just want to, okay,
What's the answer?
I feel this way because of this,
Yep.
because of this incident. How do I get to not feeling this way anymore? Whereas some people, and I used to be one of those of, okay, I feel this way because of this incident. How did I screw up?
Mm-hmm.
Because immediately I want to go to self-blame. And I think that's a lot of people's problem. Is because
I'm very
that's
self-destructive.
because
Yes.
they want to blame themselves
Yes.
first, and then that prolongs the processing period.
Yep.
And Matt said, but how much information do we share to none of the responder spouse? There's a lot that mine has never heard because I don't want her too much about the job. Where is the balance? And I think that's, if you don't have a spouse that's in first responding like you, like Natalie, that's a difficult conversation to have.
Yeah.
Because what we are saying in our heads, it's just another day, right? To Natalie, that could be like, holy crap, are you kidding me?
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I think just like what you're saying with Candace, Natalie's always been a very good listener, and she's very intrigued because she doesn't know or understand it. So I think that's a huge deal.
I think that
That's
there's
interesting.
I think there's a lot of I'm going to switch gears for a hot second, because it's not only the fact of having your person, but it's also being able to swallow your own pride. And whenever, I'm going to go off of Shane's comment, and thank you, Shane, because that takes a lot for somebody to say. It honestly does. Shane said, same here, Dylan. I've even bold-faced lied to Patrick when he's checked on me and said I was okay. I
Sure.
think that's a lot of it, is how often do we pass each other in the station on the, when we get back from a call or anything like that, and passing, how often do we say, hey, you good? And we keep walking.
Yep. And not
What the
even-
hell are you even thinking? Why are you walking away?
Right.
You asked him a damn question. Stop.
Right.
Hey, are you okay? And I'm
Yeah.
going to sit there and I'm going to stare at you and be like,
Yeah.
you're going to answer
What you
me?
don't realize, and Shane, I know exactly where you're coming from. I can go days without saying anything. I really can, and that's a major downfall, and that does nothing but
And that's, I
it
think-
does nothing but ruin your own mental health.
Well, one of the things with you though is you're, and it's days, it's possibly days after, but it's nothing for me to get a text message from you to say, hey, you in town this week? I need a barn day. Barn's always open.
Right.
And,
I've never gotten that text.
you don't have a barn. I mean, hey,
So it's
Wow.
build a barn. That's all I
Build
know.
build a barn.
Build a barn.
Build a
In the
barn.
city limits, that'd be great.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, you got kitchen tables, you got parking lots, you got the post offices, which is an inside joke.
Yes, yeah.
A
A lot of people don't know about that.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know about it. But right now, I have a barn, and that's where Scars has been filmed at, and a lot of people come hang out, and it's good stuff.
So how many people in here have the outlet, or can talk to somebody? Can you?
Yeah.
Sometimes. I like
Well,
sometimes,
depending on what it is.
depending on what it is.
Different things take different time to process for different people, and I mean, there are things that I've dealt with that I still haven't talked about 11 years later. But I
Right.
mean,
It took me 6 months for brake iron.
Mhm.
I'm still not 100% okay, but
And everybody processes everything differently. Like, my brother and I were on the exact same call. Devastated me. I came home and I was like, he's eating a bologna sandwich, and I'm like, what did you think, about such and such? And he's like, I don't know. I'm gonna finish this sandwich and go to bed. I gotta work tonight. I'm good. So, we're two different people.
Mhm.
Like he.
But does that catch up with him at some point?
Not that he ever showed it. Kim, am I lying?
No.
Not that he ever showed it.
But Christina just made it, we internalize to continue doing this from call to call, and it's often just easier to continue internalizing after hours as well. And I think that honestly, by the end of a shift, or by the end of a pay cycle, or whatever it may be, I cannot, but I'm not good at remembering things anyway, but how many of us can remember the call that we ran on, a week before?
Huh.
Because
Sometimes I can forget a call by the end of the shift, but then it comes back
but
8
I mean,
months later.
But that's the thing, like, we may not know that it's bothering us at that point in time, and that's why I know that we preach the whole check-in thing, and I'm not saying that we shouldn't preach it, but I think that a lot of the times is, are you checking in for the right reasons, and are you doing it at the right time? If I just run a crap call, the last thing I want to hear somebody come to me and go,
Hey man, you okay?
Hey man, you good?
Right.
Because I'm going to hit you.
Right.
See, I'm exactly the same way. As I like to decompress, but by the time you're able to decompress, because at some agencies, it's back to back to back to back to back.
Oh yeah, you don't even get your
24
truck
hours
put back
later.
together, and you're
And
going
it's like-
again.
And me personally, it's nothing against my husband or my best friend, who I very easily could talk to. I'm just really bad about that. I'd rather take care of everybody else.
Mhm.
And my former partner, I don't know if I degraded. Mentally, physically, I became a terrible person over the years. So it's like stuff like that. I think we're like, we'll deal with this after work, and then it's like, well, shoot, I've got to go to sleep because I got to work again, and then it's just builds up over years.
And something else too, especially when I started out, you go into the industry, into this career, hearing, leave it at work. And as a fresh EMT or a fresh medic or fresh whatever you're going into, you're like, okay, well, I'll just leave it at work then. And
It's easier said than done.
You
yeah,
cannot do
and
it.
that builds up. And it's like your 6th month as an EMT, and you've left it at work every day, or you've tried, and it's finally weighing you down. Well, I'm not doing something right because everyone else can leave it at work. Why can't I?
Mm-hmm.
And it's a revolving door.
So
where-
suddenly you're the problem.
But
What
it's
am I
also
doing wrong?
but it's also the stigma of, you know, you and I are on an ambulance together, and after 3-4 months, I can still carry this load, and you might be struggling with it, or vice versa. And who the hell in this room, I can tell you right now, I wouldn't. Who's going to stand up and be like, wait a second, he can shoulder this, I can't. Like, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
Like, there's an issue. And sometimes it is that months down the line, and you're in your own head, you're going, you know, Dylan's fine. Like, we've been on a truck together every day, and just like, he's fine. And
You're like, oh, that's just Dylan.
Or if you have left it at work for 3 years.
That could be
And then you
coined.
have that one call that, like you said earlier, Dylan.
Yeah.
That brings it all back.
It
You've
does.
done great for 3 years.
Yeah.
That one thing triggers it, and now you're remembering
Yep.
all this other
Stuff that you've
terrible-
buried so far down deep, and then one thing can bring that back to life. And be like, holy shit, that call 3 years ago bothered me.
So a few things. I'm just reading comments. I see my brother just posted something. I haven't even read it yet. So first off, Jason, to your point, I agree 100%. It has to be the right person. It's almost to a point of not only who do you look up to, but who do you respect? And just because you don't talk to that person doesn't mean that you don't respect them. But there are things that I can have conversations with you that I wouldn't have with other people just because of mine and your relationship. And I think that life is nothing but relationships. And if you're that person that holds things in, then that kind of rolls me into Katie's comment of debriefing. Where I work at and what I do, debriefing is everything. How do you become better? The only way to get better is by talking about what you just did. And anything, it doesn't have to be about mental health, it can be just performance. What just happened? How can we make it better? What did we just learn from it? Then try to teach it. By teaching it and understanding it, then we can really roll with it. But debriefing it is, I believe, that first step of getting it off your chest and literally.
But how quickly can you how quickly?
People are different because of processing times.
Right, but that's the thing. If you look at it from a public or for a first responder public safety standpoint,
so why not?
What's our normal?
So
there's different steps out
let's
there.
change it up a little bit. What if? I'm really excited to read my brother's comment. What if
It's actually good.
you roll into your next shift and continue the very first thing? Everybody here is a first responder, so you roll into your very next shift after your debrief on your last one. You roll into, and the first thing you do is continuation of debriefing from the last shift. Does anybody have anything from the last shift they want to talk about? To me, that's a continuation of debriefing. That allows people to debrief themselves and process something. But people don't want to talk about stuff because it's change. And they don't want to incorporate things because it's change, and people don't like change. So let's decompress in that next rotation and say, hey, does anybody have anything we want to talk about? We had some shitty calls. Let's throw them out there. And as leaders, you have to be able to throw it out to a point of saying, hey, we had a shitty call.
So right out there, go right into your brother's comment. It says the problem on the 911 side of things is you may take 3 or 4 bad calls in a row, and there is no time to decompress, and you still have to sit there and answer calls for the rest of your shift, and your head better be in the game. So that right there has to be a certain point of time to where you pull the red card, red flag, whatever the hell it is, and you say, whoa, I can't do this right now. But that's the problem, because the state is in it, not only the state of West Virginia, the entire
nation.
United, we're in an EMS crisis,
Yeah.
a staffing crisis that we've been in for 3 years now. And he's exactly right, is that nobody can wave their hand and say, listen, I can't do this next one.
Patrick, I've had so many people come up to me and tell me that he's the black cat of Harrison County. Like, if it's a bad call, he's
Oh, you
dispatching
think?
it. And it's not just one. It's like just freaking rotating door
But
of bad calls. So I can feel that.
You and I wrote the same thing down.
Did
It's
we?
funny.
Yeah.
Debrief versus just talking about it.
Do you guys want to check my notes?
Hot wash. Yeah, I'll check it. Yeah. By God, you did write the same thing.
It's all fair, right? It's
Hot
all fair.
washes versus debriefs, right? You know, I can remember, you know, every fire that I was command of, hot wash. You know, and that could
I've
be
never
why
heard
you're.
that term.
You never heard of hot wash?
No.
Hot wash is at the end of the call. You know, you're back at the station. You're cleaning your hose. You're cleaning your packs. Cleaning your gear. Whatever.
Like a debrief.
Hey, you know what we do right? What we do wrong? Did anybody see anything? Can we improve on stuff? So on and so forth. And they're very informal. You know, they're a kitchen table chat. They're a chat while you're cleaning up. Very informal. But a lot of people haven't had enough time to process the entire event. So when does that debrief need to occur? So again, hot wash is right after the call, just to get any immediate concerns.
Yeah.
Oh, well, you know, Wayne can't hit a hydrant, so we need to work on that. Believe me, that's one thing Wayne can do is hit a hydrant. He can't put an air pack on for shit. But,
I've seen it.
Yeah.
Backing into
He's
it.
the only guy I know who's back there putting an air pack on and smoking a cigarette. It's great. Comes
Now,
up.
now, Ian, on the other hand, he can hit anything you put in front of him.
Oh,
He
really?
can hit anything. He's amazing.
So,
Gotcha.
so
But then-
I understand what a hot wash is, but I've never heard the term.
Okay.
And I 110% agree with a hot wash. I love it. I love the idea of it. But I think the debriefing and kind of the more talking to people, that debriefing needs to be a continuation. As leaders, leadership and we've talked about this so many times, leadership needs to understand their people. Leadership needs to understand their calls. They need to be involved to be able to say, hey, we just had a shitty call last shift. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. And I think 24 hours or 48 hours, and some people are everybody's different, but a certain time frame of that processing would be able to assist to a point of saying, kind of like when we do our nonprofit meetings, old business, new business, for the good of the organization. Everything's broke down in sections. That first briefing should be, let's debrief from the last shift. Let's talk about that.
Matt said
Yeah, they
tailboard
have the right
discussion.
administrators to do that.
You can change administration.
7 to 3, and they want to go home.
Right. So when do you debrief? And so you know, what time frame? Give me a number. What's your time frame when do you think a debrief should be?
For me, anywhere between 24 to 48 hours.
24 to 48. Who else?
Every call,
Huh?
every call.
Well, I understand every call, but how long after that call?
What's the time process?
No, I mean, I'm saying like after every call should be yes, and like think about your perspective. Like, we're so hyper fixated on all the high acuity, horrific calls we go to. Our perspective's skewed. Like, how many calls do we go into where there's bed bugs in the house, where there's species everywhere? Like, it's stuff that we just take for granted every day. Their normal population, they don't see that every day, but we do.
But
And that's
it's-
stuff we push aside, just keep going to the next call because it's not a big deal.
Well, in the eyes of administration, are you gonna allow your employees to sit after every call and potentially debrief? Because they're just wasting time, wasting money, wasting profits.
Or is it somebody that, just like our patients that learned how to use the system?
Exactly. It's a control a broken system.
And Ian, just I feel like I'm with you 100% because what you're describing is what they're calling a hot wash, and that's the same as what I would have said the exact same thing you said. They just coined a word for it, hot wash, but I think a hot wash is completely different than a debriefing.
Well, a debrief should
It is.
A debrief, you're truly diving into the details.
You're dissecting the incident.
You know who doesn't debrief? This was brought to my attention not too long ago. I was having a conversation, and I want you to think about this. Now, you may not understand this, but
Is this a good time for me to go to the bathroom?
That's what I was trying to say. You can go stoke the fire.
There ain't a fire.
Oh, that's right. But I actually had an individual that I talked to that said, you know, I never got to debrief over a dialysis patient that I had for 3 years straight. And when that patient passed away, it affected me and my work on a personal level because they had built such a relationship. So it was like losing a family member. We never think to debrief on something like that.
I would never.
I'm gonna
Who
go
would
stoke
have
the fire.
thought to debrief on the patient that you've had steadily
On a dialysis
every
patient.
Monday, Wednesday, Friday for dialysis for the past 2 years. It's unheard of, right? So there's where we change that stigma again of what needs debriefed. What are you holding in? What has affected you during your time in the business?
See, like, I love a little bit of what Josh was talking about, you know, maybe we do kind of like a hot wash, but and then the next shift, you know, because depending on what your shift is, you got about 24 hours before.
Mhm.
You come in and talk about it. The thing is that, you know, as well as I do, sometimes you walk in the door and you're right back out the door on call.
Mhm.
And make a little bit of time available at the beginning of your shift where you have that little bit of a overlap of where you can actually sit there and do that.
Right.
And a couple places I know kind of try to do something like that, but for the most part, in a lot of places that I know of locally, a lot of their leadership is just so far disconnected from the actual job
Sure.
itself that they don't remember that where they came from.
Talk to the leadership member.
Right.
So where you have to schedule an
You have to
appointment?
schedule an appointment, special appointment to go in.
I think a lot of it also revolves around the fact of not only the leader or the leadership not only them taking the time to do it, but at what point in time as an administrator, and I'm not taking up for him, I'm just asking a simple question. At what point in time as an administrator do you have the ability to know to know when the bad calls happen? You don't always sit there with the radio on. You don't always sit there with the scanner going. You know,
Each
Well
person-
then you're telling me that you're.
I can answer that.
No, wait. I'll
ahead,
go,
go ahead.
you can go next. You
Okay.
stepped away. Yeah. Your
said
subordinates. No, your subordinates should be keeping you informed of this stuff
Exactly.
if you're in that administrative role. And what we see administrations who are too busy fighting amongst themselves to give two shits about what's going on out in the field world again.
But then the subordinates feel as if so if you take from what you just said, the subordinates report back to whatever and say, you know, this is the problem or this is, you know, basically a snapshot of my shift of how this has worked.
Mhm.
And then, you know, the people in the field, they don't want to go the next step up.
Mhm.
They want to stop at the subordinate, the middle management, whatever the title's going to be, the shift liaison, captain, whatever, supervisor. That like those people, I don't want to talk to you if you weren't there.
Well, not only that, but
Why-
I
why
think
do
that's
I-
why it's important not only for your direct supervisory staff, your mid-level management, to also be involved in mental health awareness and coaching and things of that nature.
They
Because,
need to be able to see the
but
signs.
you're right. But the upper administration needs to at least understand that there is a problem. You know,
Yeah.
whether they
Yes.
they act on it or not. The problem is most administrators don't know that there's a problem within their agency,
But there's also, and I think
Some
that
do
this
and
is
don't care.
this is
or some do and don't care.
this is profession wide.
Hmm.
I think. And now there may be some fire and
One-offs.
EMS agencies that prove me wrong about this. But how about the training? How about the training that you should be giving your middle management staff to be able to see those
Huh.
those telltale signs
Right.
of when Josh walks in, he's 5 minutes late. This is the fourth time. He's never done this before since he's been working with you, and he's 5 minutes late again. And he looks at you and he goes, it is what it is," and just keeps walking. How many without?
That's a sign.
It is a sign. Why are you late? Like, hey, what's up? Let's have a conversation. Then we pull and we have a conversation, and then it gets twisted to where it's no longer an issue. Now it's a problem. Like
What was you
instead
gonna
of
say, since I cut you off, because you cut me off all the time.
I can't remember.
I knew it.
it's all up here. Every bit of it. If you'd had it, you want my
Yeah.
I think so. Years ago, I took a fire officer class, and I want to say that Rick Scott taught the class. And one thing that stuck with me is one person can effectively lead / manage 4 to 6 people.
Mhm.
And too many times I feel like people get out of that realm, or their own realm. If I'm a administrator, a senior manager, and you're the mid-level manager, how many times do I go around you to talk to people that work for you? And how many times do people that work for you go around you to talk to me?
Yes.
And when you break chains of command, I think that you're breaking the model.
Yeah, you destabilize everything.
Absolutely. And if you can build that pyramid of one person effectively and efficiently managing 4 to 6 people, everything will fall into place. When people call me at work and they want to start asking me questions, the first response that I give back is, "What'd your boss say?" "Well, I haven't called him yet." "Well, call your boss. Call your boss. If he doesn't give you the answer that you're looking for, then call me back. But you need to call your boss." Because you have to engage into that. And I feel like there's a lot of stuff that could... I had problems through promotions that it was important to me to have my feet on the ground and lead from the forefront. And I had to slow down because I was taking drive away from my mid managers, because I ended up doing their job. And if you do their job, they're going to let you do your job, and then they're going to be ineffective. And then you're putting more weight on your own shoulders. And I think that's...
But what if
it
you're
can start
not?
to
And
snowball.
what if you're the mid-level manager that's ineffective? Now where do you go? Because we see that a lot, and there's time. Fire and EMS is the world's worst about this.
Sure.
Oh, well, I'm going to promote John Boy over here because he's got 10 years in the business. He's bound to know what he's doing.
Yeah.
Well, John Boy's an idiot. But you report to John Boy, and John Boy's never ran a fire scene, never ran an EMS call, and you've got to complain. Now where do you go?
So one of
Or
the
it's,
things...
You're my BFF, and I want to put you in a management position because I've known you for 4 years, and we're like this.
Yeah,
What's
and
happening?
we see that. Yeah, we see that a lot. One of the
places it's popularity gone.
yeah, absolutely.
That's one
Or
of the
how much you
biggest
donate.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
might have somebody
Money,
that-
popularity,
that
two
never
driving
had any
forces.
business being in the position, but they are because-
Yep.
One of the things that I encourage, and we actually do, where I work at, and not everyone does it, but what we do in this area is a 360 review. And a 360 review isn't what it sounds like as far as your boss giving you a review of how you're doing. It's your subordinates telling you how you're doing. And it's tough.
Interesting
It's
concept.
tough.
That's a good, and I feel as if that is one key part that's missing in public safety, is because as much as important as it is for my boss to agree with my actions and be able to rate me however, I think it's also important for the field staff to be able to do the same
I think
thing.
it's more important.
So what kind of leader does that make you? Is that
Amazing. Oh, we ain't talking about me.
Jesus. So that's part of servant leadership, right?
Yeah.
That's part
I'll
of.
be like, okay, if I give my honest and open opinion about my leadership,
So that's.
there I'm getting fired.
But
because I don't
but
like
listen,
what you
but
do.
listen.
Right,
Here's
honest.
honest to goodness. Here's the
Nobody
thing.
likes that.
So I have 350 guys that work for me. I have 5 direct reports, and each of the 5 direct reports, 3 of them have 5 supervisors, 6 supervisors that work for them, and then 350. When you start talking, one of the guys are on here that work for me. Actually, a couple of them. But when I start rolling this out, one, it's a culture shock because you have to mentally prepare someone. So if you're that if Dylan's that mid-level supervisor, and I'm like, hey, listen, you're about to hear some shit, and it's going to be tough, and it's going to be an ego check, and you're going to have to take a lot of deep breaths, and you're going to have to stay calm, and maybe even put some O2 on, and you gotta prepare them because it's tough.
I'd never have high blood pressure about something like that.
I think we're buffering again.
Yeah.
But you have to be mentally prepared for it, and then that's step 1, and then step 2 is you have to go into the guys, the subordinates, and say, hey, listen, Here's an opportunity. It's a great opportunity. It's a way to make a difference. I've got the gavel. Nothing's going to happen to you. This is about how we get better. Today we're good, but how do you get better? How do you get better than good? How do you get great? And you guys have the key to it. All you have to do is
Evidently, they just hang out with you.
I know. That's right. That's exactly right. But
Back to the popularity contest.
But you have to trust your leadership, and you have to build the team. And then once that stuff starts rolling, and you start putting stuff like this in, hey, listen, we've saved jobs. I mean, guys were getting ready to get fired, and they didn't know. They didn't know they were doing anything bad until their people started saying, hey, listen, you really suck. What? What do you mean I suck? You know what I mean? And then they get that high-pitched voice, and they get nervous and then clammy and sweaty, and you're like, whoa, let's try this. And things start to roll, and it's awesome.
Yeah.
We are
Just at an hour. That's crazy.
That's awesome.
From
People quit commenting on mine.
Did they?
No, I haven't.
they're tired
Did
of
you shut
looking
me
at
off?
Huh? Oh, I'm sorry. No, it was your ego. Whatever.
Oh wow!
Wow. The switcher just came up and said your cloud's full. So it must have been your ego that got me.
It's me.
Got to deflate that to get him out of here.
I'll be calling my Matt later.
What from the group? We got a few minutes. Open discussion.
So on the hot wash,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you can't have those, because you come from a call, you're trying to get everything back together because you have to go to your job.
Right.
Done it plenty of times.
Plenty of times. Yep.
Go on a call, come back,
Mhm.
get everything back together, go home enough time to take a shower, get work.
And I think from the volunteer standpoint, that is a very,
I think that's a big part.
it's a very unhealthy way, because you're not even processing until sometimes 24 to 48 hours after the call, because you don't have time to.
Or
So
you're
you
processing
you
at work.
Or
Yeah.
you're at your.
Yeah, or you're
At
at your regular,
at
yeah.
your regular job and process it
Process.
and screws up your whole day.
Or you've blocked it out while you're at your job and you've just buried it, and then you don't, it could be weeks, days, months later,
Yeah.
something triggers it and brings it back to life again, because you were never afforded the opportunity to start the process. And I
Yeah,
think,
that
and I
makes
think
it
from the
rough.
volunteer standpoint, that's a huge disservice.
You may
Yeah,
never
it
have
is.
a
You-
debrief
Right.
about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially to get everybody back
Mhm.
Yeah.
in that group.
Yeah.
'Cause
At
everybody-
best,
yeah,
it
you're
could be
running-
just who's in your apparatus. You know, so that does create another issue, all of its own. So I think it's really important to try to.
From a law enforcement standpoint, do you guys debrief? Is there a debrief after calls? Ever?
Very, very, very rare. If it's involving another officer, there might be, and it's not even a debriefing. I mean, it might be, just a couple of guys talking about it, and after that, it's kind of done over.
It's just washed away.
Yep.
And then I remember you talking about an officer-involved shooting on our episode. Is there a debrief after that?
We did, it was, I wanna say it was a couple of days later, we did a debrief. They've actually changed like policy now, you have to have a little bit of time to decompress before you write a statement. You just kinda got everything going, and then you get interviewed, by the detectives. Then you go into the debrief, where you watch body cam video, you try to critique different things. But as for, are you okay? No.
I was just gonna ask, it sounds like your debrief is purely work related,
It
it's
is.
not mental health related.
Right. And that incident was literally, and I think I told you, was sent to the psychiatrist, asked 2 or 3 questions. Okay, you're good, go back to work. And that's all it seemed to be.
Just check the
We
boxes.
gotta get these guys back to work.
Right, just check the boxes. Let's get
That's
them
it.
back in
We
the
gotta get them
phone.
back to work because, we're shorthanded.
And did anybody during that time, did anybody on their own accord or behalf, did they reach out to you and say, hey, you good? Are you okay?
No. maybe one of the secretaries, and she's one that's been there for years, over 20 years, and she always takes it personal with the guys. If it's a minor fender bender, she's always reaching out, hey, are you okay? Are you, is everything all right? And even those kind of calls, an officer involved shooting or whatever it may be, she would reach out personally to you. But I can assure you, nobody else did.
From a 911 perspective, are there any other 911 dispatchers other than Courtney and I? So from a 911 perspective, anytime there was ever a call that could be deemed either A, a high priority call, or B, a devastating call, were you ever pulled off the console?
No.
Were you ever asked about
No.
it? Ever talked about
No.
it? Ever go through a
No.
debrief about it?
I was gonna say, honestly, in the year and a half I spent in 911, I can tell you, I answered all those questions as no. By management, administration, no. Now, from the wonderful captain that I had, yes. Those people in the room with you. But can you stop and take a break? No. Can you ask for a debrief formally? No.
You can't even unplug and walk away.
No. I mean, you could, yeah, for a few minutes if you need to.
Right.
Do you even have staff meetings? No. Can you request staff meetings? No. So, I mean, other counties and agencies are different, but from my experience, no.
And I've got family experience, and it's
Yeah.
100% right.
We have a very broken system here.
Yes.
It is
And
extremely.
You have young people answering calls of a pediatric cardiac arrest, and then your son calls you cry.
Yeah. You've got 5 minutes to step outside, take a smoke break, go to the bathroom, and then get your butt back in.
So what happens if you don't go back in?
I mean, you're not gonna have a job most likely. And then.
So we've identified 4 different spokes of the wheel of public safety, and there's a common denominator.
Mhm.
We don't stop afterwards.
You either do your
Where's
job
the hard
or you
stop?
don't have a job.
Right.
There is no, hey, take a day. Hey, take 30 minutes, take an hour, take the rest of the shift. There's no in between. It's either you stay and do your work or clock out and go home.
So it's the hard stop that needs to take place to be able to start the decompression. But then, but one of my fears would be, let's take a 911 operator for example, and Jason, you can chime in on this as well. Take a 911 operator for example, answers a pediatric cardiac arrest call, first one. Obviously, there's nothing you can do to prepare for that in my mind. You let them unplug for 30 minutes, 45 minutes, and you kind of let them decompress, and then what do? Do you make them plug back in and keep going? Like there's got to be that hard stop has to be a stop. It has to be like you unplug and you go home, but then I just sent somebody home to be by themselves.
Well, and hey, you get sent home, it's an infraction, you're now using your paid time off, which, I mean, some people don't have the luxury of having paid time off, so now you're short a payday, and it's just a snowball.
It is a snowball effect, and then think about a smaller dispatch center that may only have 2 dispatchers on at one time.
There
Or
are
one.
agencies with
That's
more
what
than
I was
one
trying to say.
person.
And it's the same with PD. You may have counties that have 2 deputies working at nighttime. You may have an EMS agency that has 1 crew at nighttime.
That's fine.
Yeah, you may have
Say at night, 4, maybe, at max.
freestanding
So the
freestanding
transport
ERs
center.
that have 2 nurses and a doc and an assistant or something at night. So
That should be
where's their
illegal.
time?
It should be illegal
You
to run a 911 system. Or to
I understand it
run a
may
911
be,
center with 1 person on duty.
but let's think about that. If you're in a rural county in whatever state you live in, your county population's 10 to 15,000, and your number of 911 calls at nighttime, because you understand it is business as well, that doesn't support paying 2 or 3 or 4 or whatever.
Oh, no, I'm not saying
You
that
know,
you should never, like, you should,
shouldn't happen.
but I mean, you should never drop below 2.
No.
Because there's always, because what happens, yeah, the numbers, well, the statistical data shows, and I get
And
that.
that's where we've
and-
gotten.
and I get
That's where
that.
we've gotten lost in translation.
But it's
We-
also the only thing we have to go off of.
I understand that.
But
And-
sometimes numbers shouldn't matter.
Right.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Treatment is what should matter. There are a lot of agencies that are 911 centers that have one person. Okay, so what if I have to go to the bathroom? I've
Right.
gotta wait for a deputy to drive 2.5 hours to come relieve me and sit down and hopefully know how to do that job if that phone rings. I mean, it's a harder on them, it's a harder on that one person, not to mention what they might answer.
So that's why some 911 centers have a bathroom right there in the comm center.
Matt Reed
Yeah,
just
a lot
said,
of 911 centers are jail 911 center combos.
Yeah.
Right.
So not only are they answering, and they're dealing with, turds.
So-
Or heckling them, or.
Matt said fire departments that have one guy on shift, I didn't think about that.
Huh.
You know, if it used to be, at least where I started fire, it was, there was an officer every night, they were the duty officer.
Mm-hmm.
And they would staff station till 11, and then from 11 to 7, they'd run a call. And you got to pick your duty night to hopefully coincide with your shift, but that's one person. Like at what point in time and I know that I'm preaching to the choir here, but at the same point in time of, not only is it from a debriefing to an officer-involved shooting to a debriefing of a pediatric cardiac arrest that you received via telephone,
Mm-hmm.
then it's, the debriefing of going and running the call, actually physically going to the call and running it, and all of they all have the same damn problem.
Right.
There's nothing broken. The brokenness is the fact that we can't come together.
Well, and I mean, I can remember for years, Grafton
Right.
had, and Moomal, if he's still on there with us, can confirm this. They ran the one guy on a shift, and when that guy's ass hit the driver's seat, the truck left, and he prayed that somebody showed up to help him when he got there. How much did that guy see?
All because we're all about the especially in the volunteer world, who can crack doors the fastest.
I mean, but I will say that I've had a lot of input from paid departments that said, speed saves lives, right? But if you're by yourself and all you can do is fling water at it, and you've got somebody, hanging out of a second-story window, and you show up with a fire truck full of water in yourself, what are you gonna do?
Right, but I mean, even look at, some of the paid fire departments around our area. You may get an engine with 2-3 people on it.
Yeah.
You can't effectively do a job with 2
No.
or 3 people.
No.
You can't. Like it's
You're destroying their mental health even faster because you're setting them up for failure in so many ways. It's not funny.
Setting them up for failure before they even do anything.
Yep.
This is gonna be a good episode.
Did Wayne just say speed can kill you?
Speak.
Like Wayne Ross said that?
Well, we're gonna,
Wayne, the only person that I've
We try
ever
not to mention names, but
that's the only guy that I've ever managed.
delete that comment if you would.
The only guy that
We'll have to
the
edit
only
this.
guy I've ever managed that could total a vehicle that was out of gas.
It was just like he
Yeah,
made
that's-
the comment. He threw himself out.
Go ahead.
So one thing kind of comes back to hot wash versus debrief is, I know at least for myself, until I sit down and have a couple days to process something, like for instance, one call that we ran that was traumatic arrest, that didn't go the right way, or didn't go our way. It wasn't until after that call I sat there and picked apart everything that I did wrong. And in my head, I did a million things wrong. But it wasn't until I was able to sit down and look at the chart and have a couple days to process that information that I was able to fully put together the entire thing, and then I was ready to talk about it. And I feel like a lot of times you'll have a debrief right there and then that's more akin to a, as you'd say, hot wash. And then that's kind of it, and it's on to your field level captains or whatnot to check in with you. And I've been fortunate enough that my field level captains are very good about that, and to the point where, if I'm not coming in talking miles a minute or saying something stupid, they'll immediately get on me about what's going on. But at the same time, there's probably a lot of people that don't realize that until you're able to take that step back, that initial debrief isn't necessarily enough. as much as the follow-up, as you start to sit there and these little doubts creep in your head, and like, well, I could have done this, I could have done that.
No, was that your first traumatic arrest, or have you had one prior to?
It was my first where I was an actual, in a direct role with it.
Okay.
Well, I think too, the hot wash versus the debrief. Hot wash is camaraderie,
Mm-hmm.
in my viewpoint. It's camaraderie. We're working, we're putting things back together. You know, we're working together. We leave, we go away. In my opinion, a debrief should involve a professional
Mm-hmm.
of some
Yep.
psychological part,
Mm-hmm.
and the crew or whoever needs to be a part of it. If it needs to be the fire department, the sheriff's department, 911 center, everybody together to debrief on that call.
Mm-hmm.
But you need to have a professional
Yes.
in that
Yeah.
group.
Somebody to mitigate, basically. And,
Yeah.
And
Yeah, sure, I understand what you're talking about with that call, cause hey, I had a call that was similar to that and blah, blah, blah. That doesn't help you with your
mm-hmm.
debriefing. That
Right.
mean, it helps you release it
Mm-hmm.
and get it out
Yep.
off your chest, but it doesn't give you extra coping mechanisms.
So, when you say professional,
She's talking about me. Was there a question about that? I'm sorry.
Nope.
I'm intelligent, I got my glasses on.
Oh, Lord.
do you mean a subject matter expert, or do you mean
The person should know. It shouldn't just be a random psychiatrist, psychologist, counselor.
Okay, that's kind of what I'm getting at. So when you say
That
professional, you're
person-
saying a counselor, psychiatrist, somebody like that, or are you saying like a subject matter expert like the sheriff's department if it's associated with them, or the fire department if it's associated with them, or hey, 911 dispatcher, why did you do this instead of that? So is it more of a subject matter expert, or is it a professional of psych?
I think it's
For mental health.
I think it's combined.
It's
It's a
combined.
mental health
They should-
specialist that has the area of expertise within fire, EMS, law, dispatch.
Spend time in each, that, like you're putting a group together for a response for these situations. So that person should spend time with
Yes.
EMS,
Mhm.
so many hours. Should spend time with fire department. Should spend 8 hours at least, and that's putting it mildly, at a 911 center. Spend time with the sheriff's department.
So I kind of feel like that's where SCARS is that's the brainchild of SCARS to
Yeah.
be
Yes.
able to do that and to help to be that professional in a sense. But at the same time, I personally look at debriefings as, to your point, what'd you do wrong? I don't like that. That's you're instantly negative.
Right. What'd you do right?
What'd you do right, and what can you do better? You know, we can all get better. And it's when you focus on negative, you look at negative, you look at yourself negative with this negativity, and it's don't do that, brother. Don't, because that's you're setting yourself up. You're preparing. You're planning to fail.
Yeah.
That's what that is.
And you're
planning
young
to
in your
fail.
career, and you're already planning that.
Yeah.
I've done something wrong, and that's definitely. There's always just room to, what can I do better next time?
But I
Not
also
what did I
think
do
that
wrong?
a lot of that falls on training as well. Because if you come at it from the aspect of, from the training side of it, we were never told in EMT class and paramedic class and EMR class, whatever, we were never told about what a debrief looks like. We were never told about a hot wash. We were never told about a CISD, and if we did, it was a paragraph. We were never told about a mental health crisis that we were going to be in. So some of us had to learn through just years and years and years of experience.
Because until that point, it was leave it at work.
Right. Correct.
And
But
I
now we're 4 years into this mental health push, at least. with the highlight year being 2020, 2021, and it's still not talked about in your EMS books. And it's still not talked about how you're gonna feel when you have your first poor outcome, because I can sympathize with you and say that I'm the first person who wants to go to blame as well. I want to find out where I screwed up, because when you go to medic class, anybody in here that's been through medic class,
That's who we are as providers. Is
right?
what did I do wrong? How do I
we
fix this?
don't fail medic class.
No.
You say if you do your algorithms right, your patient lives, right?
Yeah.
I would say there's about an 80-20 rule.
That's what TV says.
I
Right.
checked all the boxes on the National Registry for him. Why didn't this patient live?
Right, but I mean, there's about an 80-20 rule in paramedic class that says you go down through your algorithm right, your patient's going to live. Well, then you go out to the field and you go down to your algorithm right, and there's less than 5%, I would even go to say,
Right.
that is never going to regain and start all over again. So I sympathize with you there, but I also think a lot of it has to do with the training of which we provide our people, because we don't tell them, like, there was never a time in paramedic class that I went through all of it and my patient still died. If I went down the algorithm without a hiccup, my patient always, by God, it came back to life. It was also a mannequin. But guess what? The first time I did it in the field and the guy died, I was like, but I pushed epi every 3 to 5 minutes.
They don't prepare you for when those drugs don't work.
Right.
Like, I don't know how many times I've used adenosine and it never works.
But I mean, but that's the thing. And
Not
you're-
pushing fast enough.
But you're exactly correct, is that we're never prepared for that outcome.
Another thing they don't prepare you for is when you're doing, you're trying to save a family member. That,
Yeah.
A lot of times-
Your own family member, you mean?
Yeah, that's why I
Yeah.
do that.
24 hours.
2 and 24 hours.
That's
Wow.
something.
But I mean, it's also, but like even from a coworker standpoint, build off of that.
Yeah.
From a coworker standpoint.
Yeah.
And somebody that you work a truck with them. I mean, I pray to God I never have to go through that. Like that's horrible to me. But it's also the same sense of, it's only a matter of time till you work a coworker, whether or not it be fire, EMS, law enforcement, dispatch. It's not like we all have the best of health habits. But that's the thing. Like, I mean, it's only a matter of time before this happens to you.
I'm a pillar of health.
You're a pillar. That's all I heard.
Well, this episode's over. Nobody ever wants to see this again. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. We're so sorry.
Pillar getting fed well.
I'm going to have to go back and censor that out.
Might have to. Might have to.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys for coming and joining us tonight. I know that you guys don't often get to come to our shows, and we say that a lot, that we want to be out in the public more and out in the community. It means a lot, and I'm only going to speak for myself. I'll let these two gentlemen speak for themselves. But it warmed my heart to be able to watch people walk through the door. I pour out my heart to you. I thank you for opening this building to us. And just letting us come in and basically take over. And I asked you where things were 9 million times, and you turned around and you had them in your hand. So thank you for everything.
We're always here.
I greatly appreciate that.
For those in the local area, definitely check this place out. Our first responder friends, and most of the folks that were here tonight signed up for a first responder membership. It's nice, it's quiet, it's a easy crowd to get along with. $40 a year, and you don't have to put up with all the downtown type BS, but it'd be well worth
And it's
have a
open-
place of camaraderie.
It's open to first responders.
First responder, military veterans, canteen memberships, and then of course your VFW and your VFW auxiliary memberships as well.
What's a canteen membership, not to be ignorant?
It's someone who's never served in the military and someone who's not a first responder. It could just be somebody that lives in the neighborhood.
A lay person that just wants to give back. Kind of deal. Okay.
Got you.
Matt said quit clicking the pen.
Sorry, Matt.
I was waiting for you to read it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you guys have anything for?
Hey, one thing. Jason, correct me if I'm wrong. This is most up to date. Veterans Crisis Line, dial 988 and then press 1.
No, that's the suicide hotline for
That's the suicide
anybody.
hotline nationwide.
Nationwide
everybody.
suicide
Yeah.
hotline.
Yeah.
Okay, it says Veterans Crisis Line. I think this is good stuff. You know,
988.
we need to get it out there and crush the stigma.
Yeah.
Dial 988 and then press 1. So that's all I have. It was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun coming up.
Yeah.
And that is the.
And I was shocked too, because when we pulled in, I didn't know the upstairs was rented, so the parking lot was filled.
I
And I was
know,
like,
yeah.
oh my
It's
God.
like, oh, boy.
What is going
Yeah.
on?
You screwed me because you answered him so quick. I wanted to be like, they're all here for us, man.
He'd have turned around and went home. And be like,
Spike in the coffee
can't-
tonight.
Can't do that.
All right, guys, we'll be with you back, or we'll be back with you in about 2 weeks or so. If you guys have any comments, suggestions for upcoming shows, make sure you reach out to us. scarsfrservices@gmail.com is our email address. Connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. We're going to make our first TikTok. I got some pictures tonight. None of us have ever done it before. I'm gonna get my 12-year-old daughter to help me with it. Because she'll rock it out of the park. So follow us on all the social media platforms. Give us some suggestions for future shows if you have them, or even if you have a place that we can come to and you'd like to see us there. I know there's several people that want us to come up to the PA area, down in the Randolph Elkins area. They want us over there. So
And everyone's welcome to the barn.
right.
I prefer people come to the barn.
Yeah.
You lazy ass.
We're gonna have to. The next 3 shows are going to have to be at the barn because if not, it'll be.
Yeah, we'll do 1 in 3 rotation. I like it.
There you go.
All right.
Big camper in Elkins for a show.
A camper in Elkins.
Ooh, I like
Does
that.
it have cell service?
12.
Does it have cell service?
It's got everything.
Oh,
I've got
sold.
700 channels on satellites. More glamping.
We need Wi-Fi.
Glamping. I'm sold on that one. All right, guys. Until next time, thank you very much. Take care of yourselves and take care of others.
For joining us for another empowering episode of The Resilient Responder, brought to you by First Responder Coaching. If you found strength in our stories, be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and Amazon Music. Connect with us on Facebook at Scars Inc. and catch exclusive content on our YouTube channel at Scars FR Services. Remember, your resilience is a beacon of hope. Keep rising, stay resilient, and until next time, take care.